Oh shit.
Welcome to the Adapt Collective, where we talk all things health, wellness, and movement.
Yeah, this is episode 18 of the Adapt Collective, and we got a great one today. For those of you guys that are actually watching us, whether it's through YouTube or through Spotify, we have changed the setup. We had like a little bit of a change of our feng shui up in here, so hopefully you guys like it. But
Yeah, I
this
just want
is
to add though, this seat's lower. It's not me being short. So, I've seen everybody
So
else
l-
looking tall in here, and I'm down in the bottom.
So, for those of you guys that are actually not seeing us and you're just listening to us, I am joined by my friend, my colleague. Honestly, I can't do you justice, Mr. Scott Grondin. He is one of the owners, and I'm pleased to have you here, buddy.
Thanks, bud.
So, yeah, man,
Appreciate
awesome.
it. I finally made it.
I know, I
Look,
know,
Ma.
I know. We were like, all right, when's the other guy coming on here too? So we had Scoob, and it was only right that it was about time that we get you up in here and kind of get your perspective and a little bit of your side to adapt, and that's what I wanted to talk about today. But before we get to that, just wanted to talk about our pseudo sponsors, so to speak, because once again, they're not our real sponsors, but they always really hook us up. So we have Noco. Their brand ambassadors are always coming by, hooking us up, the trainers or any of our members, with some free Nocos. It's great pre and post workout. They have caffeinated drinks. We have LMNT, which I really love for electrolytes. They just
You're
yes,
the one that turned me on to this.
yeah.
And that's
I
how
know.
that's how we ended up getting here.
Yeah, man.
That's how why
I've been I've been
addicted.
yes, because I've tried a bunch of different electrolytes, and really they're the ones that like they have great flavors. It doesn't feel like you're sipping on something too sugary, which is really what I really like about it. Because I have other stuff that I do for carb loading, and then yeah, they've really been great to us. Like they just gave us all these actual
Yeah.
canned.
These are
Yeah.
the best, honestly.
Yeah.
These half ones too. This one's 500
Yeah.
instead of the
So
1,000.
now, yeah,
'Cause
exactly.
I
Now,
already have them.
now you don't have to do like the little packets of single servings. And then we also have Celsius, another pre and post workout drink, all full of minerals and all good things that you need to get your recovery game up. But yeah, that's pretty much our stuff in terms of like our pseudo sponsors. But today, what I really wanted to do was, most people, they know their gym. We've established kind of like a good brand amongst our community here in South Florida. And they obviously know our facility for being a sports facility, a fitness club. They know our coaches. They know what we do in terms of workouts, but not necessarily oftentimes what happens behind the scenes in terms of like systems, all the intricacy that happens with the other people that aren't coaches, right? That really truly make this facility run, right? And the leadership that it requires to maintain and to prosper, right? So today, basically, we're pulling back the curtain, and I figured perfect person to do this with is yourself, because of your background, so to speak, and we'll get a little bit into that, right? But I wanted to introduce you, basically, once again, Scott Grondin, firefighter, right, from city of Hialeah, right?
17 years now.
17 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Almost 18.
What's
2 months.
what's your your captain, right?
Yeah, captain.
Okay,
For
all right.
6 years now.
All right.
So
And then
getting old, basically, is what Pete's trying to say. I used to be
I
the
didn't
young
say
guy.
it. I didn't
used
say
to be
it.
the young guy.
Yeah.
When you compare me to Scoobs, I'm still the young guy.
Yes, and then
Much younger,
now
much
some
better
of our
looking.
staff is like they have little jokes in there where like, all right, they call me Unk, and so I was like, yo, if I'm Unk, then that means you guys are like you
I'm
guys
the
are gonna
dad
get
and Scoopy's the grandpa.
yeah, you guys are
That's
getting you guys are getting those now. So I'm like, man, how time has changed, honestly. And then former business owner, right? So Adapt is not your first kind of entrepreneurial kind of start, right?
No. I had a landscaping company when I was 17 in high school.
Okay, cool.
Did that for a while. Then Scooby and I got into that CrossFit business that we were in for like 5 years before we started this.
Okay.
And then we've been here for 10. So
Adapt has been, well, here here for 10 at our current facility, but Adapt has been open already.
No, we're 11
Yeah.
total, and we're here 6.
Okay,
So
got you.
roughly half the time.
Got you. And a lot of what you, and we'll dive deeper into this, but a lot of what you're currently doing, because you're not so much teaching as you once were, but like physically, coaching classes. A lot of what you're doing, what you would say more on the operations side.
I mean, at this point, I'm totally admin operations.
Okay.
A lot of facility stuff. But I mean, I started obviously coaching with Scoobs. It was just the two of us.
Yeah.
And then, little by little, by the time we got here, I only think I was doing the kids, I think maybe a few classes a week.
Yeah.
But the more I peeled out of there, the better everything got, whether that's because I did stuff good on the back end or because I wasn't doing good on the front end. I don't know. But either way.
And you've learned how to delegate certain things as well. Okay, cool. And so, part of that origin story is I wanted to kind of see, and maybe for our viewers to kind of get a little insight as to, what exactly did you said you owned a landscaping business, right? One, I want to know how you get started into that. Two, what would you say you took away from that you're maybe applying per se now in this venture of Adapt?
Well, I mean, it started because I always did, I always had to do odds and ends at the house, right? My dad, who was always here bothering everybody.
You see him passing out towels.
Yeah, he always had me working, doing stuff around the house, doing odds and ends. So, like, that's just been kind of like how it started. But specifically, there was a hurricane in my senior year, 2005, of high school. I don't remember if it was Wilma, whatever it was. Long story short, we were off from school for like 2 or 3 weeks. Trees were everywhere.
So you guys were not allowed to stay chilling or not chilling?
No, I bought a chainsaw, and I had all my buddies, and I just hired all my buddies every day, and we would just cut trees, literally that. And then by the end of that, we had made a bunch of money, and I just kept going with it.
Okay.
And I mean, as simple as that, it was because landscaping is kind of like easy start.
Yeah.
If you know how to cut grass.
Yeah. If you can get up early.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you have a hustle. Okay.
That's how it started, and then I just kept doing it because I always wanted to do something with the fire department.
So I would say your dad kind of maybe helped in instilling that kind of grind,
For sure. Work ethic.
Yeah, and then that obviously, as I think that really has carried over in our industry because, the most successful trainers are the ones that like consistently show up even when they don't have clients, I would say.
Yeah, and then I mean they have to get up early and work late,
Mhm.
right? Like that's a trainer's job is early mornings, late nights.
Yeah, you're not really cutting grass in the middle of the day. You're like
you can't be grinding. You can't be like taking it easy as a trainer. If you are, you're probably just not making money.
And what would you say? You ended up selling that business. I think you.
Yeah.
And what mistakes did you say you made pretty early on that like, all right, hey, has shaped how you operate? And it's like I said, completely different business, but like, what would you say?
I mean, I think I stayed, and it kind of, maybe it's something against my own thing with the work ethic. I like stay in the grind for too long. Like, I still stayed, like, I still would want to cut the grass and plant the trees and do those things and like not delegate and get like, the team and really build the team. And then, so that took longer and longer over there. And then, I saw that in our first 5 years. Like, the more I removed myself from the day-to-day, like, front, seems to be the better business is going,
And I can relate to that. It's hard going from a doer mindset to, like, a educator mindset where you're, like, all right, you're having to, like, not put your hand in the pot, per se, immediately, especially as you're trying to delegate things because you can do it more efficiently and faster and you know how to do it. And you're obviously trying to teach somebody else to do that same process potentially. And you have to kind of like, all right, let them kind of go through it, obviously instill the wisdom that you've learned. And then like, all right, not try to put your hand
Even
there.
right now, I wanted to like jump, like the reality is like, we learn to do things. Like that's how first thing is like you teach your kid and they learn to do it. Yeah. Now you never really get taught how to teach. It's just you're just like, okay, I've been doing it for a while. Now you got to teach. But there's a whole skill set.
Yeah.
And exactly, you said you think you can do it faster, easier, whatnot, but really it's slower by doing it that way. So you just have to like I'm not comfortable teaching still, but like I have to learn to like, okay, let the person make mistakes or give them positive feedback and don't just say you did it wrong.
And I think something that like. For you viewers that don't know Scott, and we touched upon it as well, a lot of what potentially has helped you concurrently as you were going early on in that business venture was your your firefighter career as well, because naturally a lot of things, especially now that you're in a higher role within that department, you're exposed to like situations where you're having to critically, think on the fly, right? Delegate certain things, and quickly, right? So you're placed in these leadership complex positions, right? You're having to work as a team. You're having to trust other individuals. So how would you say that being a firefighter, has benefited you and taught you to, work under these pressures of managing, those different dynamics?
I mean, the good
That's
thing
fully
about
loaded, but
yeah,
yes.
yeah. Well, they're exactly the same. It's just the time constraint, like you had mentioned, right? Like, so everything you do in firefighting or emergency medical is like within. It's within like 60 seconds to maybe 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime it's longer than 5 minutes, there's a lot of people involved, and it gets more bureaucratic, and it gets kind of like anything. But in those 4 or 5 minutes, you have to go through everything from top to bottom that you mentioned, and you like quick decision making, delegations, and whatnot. And I think it's kind of where I learned everything, to help like manage people. The only difference is I'm learning is to like not do it in 5 minutes. Like, okay, all right, Pete.
I don't have. I have
5
more,
weeks to get this done is more realistic than 5 days.
You
That's
learn
just
that
my
all
tendency.
not all decisions are critical, basically.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
they might have some type of importance to them and some level of priority, but they're not as at a time constraint
It's
per
not life
se.
or death.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it's hard to sometimes separate those things. I'm like, I have to get this done. We got to move forward. But really, at the end of the day, taking another week to think about things and
It's
push through is better.
what comes to mind is, in turn, this position here, you at Adapt, right? You're still practicing that process of delegating, right? Being a leader and making the best decisions possible. But it's teaching you patience, right? And then you go to work and you're like, all right, I gotta speed it up, and it keeps you kind of like almost like sane, but it keeps you moderated, right? Where it's like, all right.
I think it lets me work on both sides.
Yeah.
And then also, a lot in the fire department is not always about like the emergency. That's one section of it, but the rest of it is just like any other.
There's
Any
some
other
bureaucratic
business.
work because it is a government agency
Yeah,
based work.
we still have like CEUs that we have to do. I still manage a team. I still manage a facility or a station. It's the same principles. Those things don't matter as much. As far as like speed. So there's like times on and off, and it's like that like balance between the two that I think I'm starting to get better at, right?
Yeah.
I think years of practice kind of force you to do that. A lot
Definitely.
of mistakes more than anything.
And okay, so you said Adapt opened up now. It's been
We
almost
opened in
11.
2015 officially. So we're 11 years in as of like today.
Impressive. I mean, we've had several people here. Obviously, Scoop George, the other owner, has been with us. We've had employee number 1, which was Will Valdez, right? We've obviously Jonas was been with us for a very long time. At this point, I'm starting to become a relica here as well, right? And I wanted to kind of get into you and Scooby, right? How did you guys quickly, because he gave us his version, but like, how do you guys, what was your perspective when he came up to you? Because apparently he was the one that is like, yo, I have this idea, blah, blah, blah. So what was your initial thought? I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to partner up with this guy, blah, blah, blah,
Well, first of all, it's like I was doing powerlifting back in the days. I was probably like 20 years old, 18 years old. And I was like, really into powerlifting at that point in my life. I had a lot more time on my hands. And Scooby just saw me like, whatever, deadlifting 400 pounds or whatever it was. And then he's like, oh, I got a workout for you. And it was bench, power clean, and deadlift, I think. I could be wrong. It's some CrossFit workout.
Yeah.
And it was like 10, 10, 10, 9, 9, 9, all the way down. And it just smoked both of us. And it was like with 135 pounds, which was like at that point, like lightweight for us. And it just smoked me. And then that eyes like kind of open. I was like, holy shit, I'm not that strong, or I'm not in that good of shape, because I had never done anything else like that besides sports, and that's how the intro went.
Okay.
So I think he basically kicked my ass, which saw that I had like a lot of weakness, and then I was like, oh well, I'm not weak, and that's how he sold me on
And then
becoming
now
a
we got to
business
give this to
partner.
the masses.
Yeah, I mean, at
Yeah.
that point, you're 20 years old. You
Yeah,
think,
yeah,
I think I could conquer the world.
yeah,
So,
exactly. But it's impressive, how that kind of came to be. And then, if we go down the story, and for those of you that haven't listened to that episode, Scoob actually dives deep into, like that whole ordeal, right? Of, from that moment onto like owning the CrossFit gym and, what you guys did with that. And then obviously when you guys left that and started Adapt. But I wanted to really focus not so much at the origin story, but really what you think in terms of your vision right now for Adapt and what you think separates Adapt right now, based on like what you and Scooby have done together in terms of, all right, you guys have formed this community, right? You guys have your different perspective. You're a firefighter, right? You a business you've been an entrepreneur for a long time, right? Scooby has, ex-Marine. He's also done other business ventures as well. So you guys have a lot of experience, but what makes Adapt what it is today, and how do we stand out now in South Florida where it's a mecca of gyms?
yeah, I mean, really, it's the community, right? So that's the one thing that's been consistent the whole time. And Scooby's always kind of been like a little bit in the forefront of a lot of things. And we wanted to build a college atmosphere for like training where like, where they would go and they would have, an athlete would come in, they would get their, they get their workout on, they get their stem, they get their ice, they get their recovery. They also had like a lounge, like did their homework. That was what we wanted to build in in the fitness world. And I think we kind of have, right? Like we have a workspace where we can get some of their work done. There's a cafe on site.
Yeah.
Obviously we handle the fitness and the recovery aspects ourselves internally. We built this huge community and people stay. I mean, some people are here 10 hours a day if they work here, if they work in one of the office suites. If not, a lot of people are here 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah.
As opposed to, when we were running a CrossFit gym, like if somebody stayed past their class, it was like, why are you here?
Yeah.
Or not why, but like.
Or they were probably trainers that worked there.
It didn't make sense because, you do your 6 to 7 and you leave. Here, you do 6 to 7 class, but you still can, get at the cafe. You can still do your own workout.
Yeah,
you have
can
your
do
own
massage.
You can do some stretching. You can go do some cardio after if you want some more. So like, I think that we were like, he really hit it on the head with that community. And that's one thing we're continuing with,
I think you and Scooby have always been able to pivot, right, at just the right time, because what you alluded to was initially the thought was, and granted, we were younger then, right? I think for trainers, oftentimes when we're getting into the field, we always want to work with athletes, right? That's like this thing, right? Performance. And right, you're like, all those same things, yes, they can be geared, that you mentioned, right? The lounge, right? The workspace, all those things an athlete benefits from, but so can your general population, your average mom and pop, right, with the kids, right? And that's the beauty of it, that now you're seeing a lot of those things trickle down into the general population, and we just happen to capitalize at just the right time, along with giving people the sense of community, which is what you want. The sense of community and feeling of, hey, I feel good here. They know my name, right?
Yeah.
It feels like an extended family.
Exactly.
Because a lot of places do provide these same things, but like now, can you give that sensation of belonging?
That's a different aspect too. That's not just like the logistical side. That's really planned. And we talk about this all the time. Like, hey, know the members' names, making sure you're saying out. The first thing is, greeting everybody at the front desk. Smiles mean a lot. Like all those little things that we do on like kind of the back end that we talk about. And then obviously the rest of the team actually executes.
Yeah. As somebody that you did for quite some time, you coached, and now you're more in a leadership role. What would you say is the difference between both, and what makes a good coach and a good leader per se, in your opinion?
Well, a good coach, I think, is energy. Energy, probably both sides, but specifically a coach, I think, has to have good energy. Doesn't mean they have to be loud. Doesn't mean there's some type of energy that gets received and given back and forth between people.
Yeah.
So I think that's super important. And whereas a coach is in the moment, right? Like they have to be able to do it right now, right then and there. Whereas a leader, you have to be like a little bit more foreshadowed on it, where you're or planning to be thinking about, okay, this month I'm going to do this to next, and stage it out.
A little bit more methodical.
A little bit more methodical. Obviously they all have their steps, but again, it's kind of like in the moment versus, planned out ahead, I
I would say you're a good coach and a good leader then.
Appreciate
Because
it.
of because of what you, right? You're a firefighter, and so you're like really in the moment, and then you're now managing people, and you're having to be patient. So
I don't think I was as good as I am now.
well,
So,
listen,
and I
we're,
do think
we're
there's
all
more to
we're all
go.
work in progress. Yeah, for sure.
But I know I struggled heavily, stepping out of that and like trying to be patient and whatnot.
Yeah.
I mean, even now with kids too, it's like sometimes I gotta take a
and
patience
you,
pill. You know,
you have your own kids now, and I'm sure that'll bring new perspective, and that'll reinforce some of these things once as well.
Yeah.
So, okay, cool. Kind of last question for you, honestly. So, uh, what's the long-term play then for Adapt?
So, I had told you about like being a very community based and having this like one-stop shop for everything, and I think we were ahead of that at one point, and we really were in the forerun. But now I think you're starting to see that kind of like pick up a little bit. In Miami, not as much because of space constraints, but even then, it's starting to see it a little bit. Like there's these big box gyms that are kind of like the LA Fitnesses, right? That have gotten kind of taken over now by like some of these higher elevated ones, like the Equinox or the Anatomies, or down here, even Elevation, we could say, or Lifetime. And you're starting to see that kind of take in, and now you're seeing some like high level stuff coming in with that. So I do think the next evolution is like, again, even further into like micro communities and how we can develop, micro communities inside of a smaller space.
So kind of like almost like a scale down, so to speak, right?
Yeah,
Kind
or
of
like
approach?
really dominating a certain thing. So like, for example, we do recovery and fitness, and that's really hard to see, both sides being done well. So I think that's kind of like the future of what we're doing, and I think that's kind of the future of where we want to go, is like providing back to like a higher individualized process.
It's funny because it's like, life is like these ebbs and flows, right? It feels like one-stop shop, right? Do as many things as you can good, or as good as you can, right? And now we're reverting back to kind of more niche based kind of situations, right? Where for a while that was thriving, but then obviously, people wanted more and more and more within their subscriptions, within their ecosystems, and that hence why.
Well, when it comes to, it's like this, I forget the thing of it's an issue of scale, right? There's a saying I'm trying to come up with and I can't for some reason, but like the problems come more with scale. So like once you start developing so many things, now you have this scalability that becomes a challenge. And then unless you're really ready to go and you keep going to the masses, such as like that Lifetime model, I don't know, they're supposedly going to open up, like, I think I read something about 100 locations in the US this year. And I mean, obviously it's different, we're bootstrapped, and these guys are private equity backed, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So it's a different animal.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like, do you want to go play in that red ocean of those things, like, or do you want to just go find a new blue ocean?
Yeah.
And hopefully we've been working on that, and like trying to find the next one. Like I remember when we have the cold plunges out, right out there, and like when Scooby wanted to put a cold plunge, I was like, dude, what? They're in a sauna, and I was like, you want to spend $25,000 on this? Like we just strapped ourselves, like.
Yeah. We had just come into this new facility. We're like, our cold
now
plunge
we have
sauna.
3 cold plunges and 2 saunas,
Yeah.
and every place is putting a cold plunge and sauna in. It's just it's
Well,
it's
and also
being like
the
that.
prices have come down for those cold plunges and
Also,
saunas
yeah,
too.
we paid
But-
double at
yeah.
the beginning than we are paying now. So
Okay, it's something to be said about not necessarily being the first ones to that, to
Yeah.
develop it, right?
Yeah, sometimes it's better to be like second to market and let the kinks be figured out.
Like, hey, you go first, and let me know if you get punched in the mouth, and then I'll duck when I go in.
I'm not gonna get hit again. Yeah.
I wanted to do kind of like quick fire questions with you, right? 1-word answers. That's all you're allowed, right? About like adapt and some of the things that you've learned. So you ready?
I'm good at 1-word answers.
All right, okay. I've had
know,
I've had folks that they start going into tangents, and I'm like, all right, I was gonna ask you 10 questions, and then now I can only ask you 2 of them. So
Well, we'll do 10.
all right. Biggest lesson from business.
That's a 1-word answer.
That's a 1-word
Okay,
answer.
maybe I'm not as good at this as you said. Just continue to do actions. Make actions.
Okay. All right. Hardest part about leadership.
I think patience.
What stresses you out the most?
Apathy.
Oh, I wasn't expecting that one. Okay.
Staff apathy.
Sometimes I get you. Sometimes we're like horses on blinders, man, and just oh, that's right. They do have feelings. All right. Favorite thing about Adapt?
Community.
Okay. What are you most proud of?
My kids.
Okay. Good answer. Good answer.
Make
Better
sure
you
Gabby
better answer.
Gabby, watch this one, please.
You- What's one thing members would be surprised to know?
That I actually work out often.
So to give some context to you guys, Scott works out often. Now, the duration is what's more questionable, but it's not to say he does not work out, right? And oftentimes, you know why people give you that shit, right? It's because you do it you don't do it around class times, right? Like usually that's when behind the scenes when we're pulling back the curtain, that's when stuff is like, all right, I need to handle this, I need to handle that, because the business needs to stay afloat. So somebody got to work. Not all of us can work out.
Well, and I can't. It's hard to work out. Hard for me to work out here and like let things go. If I see any little inconsistencies, I just want to stop my workout and fix them.
Yeah.
And that's where the challenge comes. That's why I also do this morning was a 22-minute workout when my daughter came running into the garage. I was like, all right, well, I got lunges and some RDLs in.
And
so
folks,
we're done.
that is how our 30-minute PT sessions came to be, right? We're like, all right, what can you? Yeah, we loosely name them executive workouts, because executives their time is money, and you don't have a lot of time, and what can you get in 30 minutes? And you're notorious for those executive workouts. You got a good bicep tricep workout. I remember you've put me through. So, all right, this next section is our hot tips. And basically, Scott, what we do is that, whatever comes to mind, what is something that our listeners would benefit from. And I'll start off, right? It could be a pet peeve. It could be something that you might have noticed out on the floor. It could be like, all right, pre-workout, whatever the case may be. This hot tip is more, for me, is more on like gym etiquette, so to speak, right? So I was working out the other day, and obviously we have a massive dumbbell rack. I mean, we have basically from 5s all the way to 100s, and we even have doubles of that on one side of our facility. And something that people don't realize is that they grab the dumbbells and they stay right in front of the dumbbell rack. And it is like one of those things of my dude, my chick, step back and allow others to, be able to access the other weights that you're not grabbing or not using, right? So just be mindful, because it is a community effort here, or a community vibe, right? And, that way others can work freely. And I was just, the other day, I was like, man, I waited. I didn't say anything.
You
but
need to go to a UFit or like a LA Fitness or something, and just remember what everybody else is doing.
I was like, man, I didn't want to stop him, but I was like, dude, just step back, like.
Nothing bothers me more than the guy who's sitting with 10s in front doing bicep curls in front of the 100s, and I'm like, I need to lift actually, and you're doing bicep curls in front of me.
Yeah.
Like, just go away.
Yeah. So I'm like, just. And I think it's the mirror has like a suction on people, where it's like it just pulls people towards the rack and they just stand hovering over there. And I think it's that. So just when you're grabbing weights, just grab them and just step back or take them wherever it is, but don't hover over the racks, right? Because there are people trying to work too. So
especially if they're 10s.
Yeah, especially.
Especially if they're 10s. Yeah.
So that was hot tip / pet peeve, right? What you got for me?
Well, I'm just going to stay on theme. I think for me is making sure that you do something daily, right? So like any form of workout daily is good, right? So like I said, I talked about this morning about me getting interrupted in 20 minutes, but even that is much better than not doing something. So like sometimes I was talking to somebody yesterday, he's like, oh, I'm only able to get in for once a week for 2 hours. And I'm like, 2 hours, dude?
Yeah.
Like that's four workouts for me,
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's something to do about like the, the hormones, the endocrine levels and everything going up and down, just feeling with the fact that you put effort and you made it, you did try, and then you got what you could for the day. And then like you come back the next day. And at the end of the day, like I've been doing like lower body. Sometimes I'll do it 3 times a week, but I'm really only getting like one killer workout in. But I nailed I got my squats one day. I got
You
my
got the
lunges one day.
all together throughout the week. You got it all,
Yes.
right? It's just bits and pieces at a time.
It's hard to really progress like that, but at the same time,
You're maintaining.
you're maintaining.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing anything, that will progress you.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
So it depends on your baseline.
It's funny. I was having a very similar but different conversation with somebody, and they were talking to me about their mental health and so on, and you know, telling me, hey, you should go outside and walk. And this was a person that was throughout before was walking about 2 to 3 times each time, about an hour, right? So they were collecting about 3-4 hours per week of just walking moderately. And now they're not doing it at all. And she's like, oh, you know, like they were making all sorts of excuses, right? And I was like, listen, just go outside and do a mile. It'll probably take you 6 or 7 minutes, right? Start with that.
Running.
Don't.
Yeah.
And I was like, because right now you're thinking about doing or what you used to do, which was 3, 4, or 5 hours, and that's a daunting task because right now you can't really balance your life and manage and see in your schedule where you can fit all that in. I was like, just start with the nearest step, right? The smallest step, right? Because that smallest step is better than doing absolutely nothing. So
that's that action, and then especially when it comes to things like that, like the minute you do that, just go take a phone call.
Yeah.
You know, everybody knows there's some phone call that they can get on. I know everybody's busy with work, but one of them is not like they have to be on FaceTime.
Yeah.
Do something. You could take a phone call or go call your family, call your friend, and before you know it, 30 minutes go by and you've walked, I don't know, a mile or two. You know, like real quick, you knocked it out.
Yeah. So you know, you may have that big goal, break it down even further, and take action, like Scott said. And that was our hot tip.
Hot tips.
Quick announcements. It is June. It's a beautiful month because one, we have our community Saturday, and this community Saturday is our Father's Day Brew Fest. The fathers will get
love.
Yes, the fathers will finally get some love. We had a great Moms and Mimosa, great turnout. And you know, we expect the same thing for the pops. But it's not just limited to the dads, right? You know, there's moms that play the dad role as well, you know. But basically it's an open community event to everybody. Bring your loved ones, bring your friends, you know, enjoy the facility. It's free. We open our doors to everybody on that day.
Grab a beer.
Yeah, grab a beer. Because yes, we have a beer sponsor. We have a non-alcoholic beer sponsor. So we have, you know, something for everybody on that day. And then we also, something that we kicked off and it's going very well is our Adapt Run Club. That is on Saturdays at 8 a.m. So right before the community Saturday starts off. So basically now we have quite a few events lined up throughout that community Saturday. So you would go from that into a fitness class, into either yoga or meditation. We always have some type of recovery. Then we have a lunch and learn. Sometimes it's nutrition, sometimes it's recharge based. So different topics for you know, different needs and wants, right? And so a lot of things happening in June. So be on the lookout for that. And, you know, just once again, wanted to say thank you, Scott, for joining us and for sharing your insight. You know, great gyms aren't built through just workouts. They're really built through the people and the systems and the leadership and vision that the folks in the back have, and you're one of those, and I'm glad to be a part of it. And you know, I'm honored to share this podcast with you. Episode 18 has been an amazing one. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
So, folks, make sure to like, review, give us a shout out, share with your friends and family on the socials, and as well as you know, give us a like on that platform, YouTube, Spotify, all those things. Be on the lookout. Episode 19 coming soon. Peace.
Shout out to Emily.
Oh, that's right. Killer.